Did the Bible predict drone swarm technology? That's the title of an article from Prophecy Newswatch, and it's what we're going to discuss today. Hey guys, Britt here. Welcome to End Times Bible Prophecy. That's what we're going to talk about today. This is more of a speculative look into the Bible. This doesn't necessarily mean this is how events will play out, but I find this fascinating, so let's dive right into it and see what it says. So here we have this article from Prophecy Newswatch. It says, did the Bible predict drone swarm technology? While unmanned aerial vehicles such as the multi-million-dollar General Atomics MQ-1 Predator are armed with missiles, a new generation of inexpensive kamikaze drones is reshaping the battlefield. The U.S. military worries that these low-cost and deadly effective drones could shift the global strategic balance away from the U.S. on the modern battlefield. To counter such emerging threats, the Army decided to conduct a field training exercise involving a swarm of 40 quadcopters, all equipped with cameras, miles, and lethal munition, tweeted the commanding general of the National Training Center in Fort Irwin. The startling video, tweeted on Sunday evening, shows the quadcopter zooming by what appears to be a makeshift desert town. Now, in a previous video, we looked at this actual video of what it looked like when these quadcopters came by. To me, it really reminded me of the imagery of Pearl Harbor and some of the movies I've seen over the years of the Japanese planes flying in and just sort of swarming the island. But again, this was just 40 quadcopters. They were equipped with lasers, which are used for these types of training exercises to see what they would be able to accomplish were they truly armed drones. So this is where the future of military engagements is going. It says drones will be as important in the first battle of the next war as artillery is today, the Army's Twitter account concluded. The weaponization of such drones is even more powerful, as some have been turned into suicide drones. The Pentagon has supplied Ukraine with over 700 Switchblade kamikaze military drones. The future of warfare appears to be clear to the Army. Small suicide drones for precision strikes will be necessary on any modern battlefield. Several other militaries have been working on developing artificial intelligence that allows the drones to work together without the need for an operator. The basic idea of a drone swarm is that its machines are able to make decisions among themselves. The swarm continue its mission even if it loses some drones during its mission. The machine learning system is fed with data sourced from satellites, other reconnaissance drones, and aerial vehicles, as well as intelligence collected by ground units. Now again, we've talked in the past about the power of these drone swarms. So if you have a swarm, imagine you have a shotgun and a swarm of bees comes and attacks you. How are you going to defend yourself? By trying to shoot the bees? Well, you might take one or two out, but the rest of the swarm is going to come after you. You have to have some other defense against that. So you either have to have a shield, or you have to have maybe your own bee swarm to attack that bee swarm, which is essentially where we're going with all of this stuff. These don't necessarily, in this case, they're talking about kamikaze drones. Drones don't necessarily have to be kamikaze in nature. They can simply be outfitted with, the ability to provide lethal threat to others. But it can come from the drone, and the drone could then return back to where it comes from. We're going to see these drone swarms advance rapidly and to a much higher degree than most people think today, similar to how we saw aviation develop over 100 years ago, where we went from these glider planes to much more deadly warfare through World War I, World War II, and then jet airplanes. There's going to be a progression of these drones getting more sophisticated, more powerful, being able to travel longer distances, and this is the future. It's going to make conventional weapons obsolete, essentially, the same way that modern conventional weapons made horses horseback warfare obsolete. So let's read on. It says China is one of the nations leading the charge on the development of drone swarm technology. Some reports indicate that China has successfully tested a swarm of 1,000 drones, and China appears to be interested in swarm capability as a method of attacking U.S. aircraft carriers. Several test simulations by the U.S. Navy have shown that drone swarms are consistently able to get past ship defenses that are geared towards shooting down single planes. This weakness means it makes sense to attack an enemy ship with a large number of cheap drones rather than one missile costing the same. Here's the other thing that I want to note about that is not only when you're talking about drones and missiles, the cost is lower. You don't have, if you've got a plane that you have to train a pilot to fly, there's a human cost involved. Here with these drones as well, you may not necessarily know where they came from. So countries can claim they aren't our drones, whereas if you fire a missile, usually you can detect where that's coming from and you can trace it back to who sent it. With these drones, they may be able to be launched out of the back of a cargo ship. There's all sorts of ways that you can hide and conceal where those drones are coming from and who's controlling them. So that's also a huge advantage. It says, ironically, the best counter to drone swarm attacks being studied is a defensive drone swarm that can intercept the offensive ones, thus creating a virtual drone swarm, or drone swarm war. Some prophecy watchers find it interesting that the Bible describes locust-type creatures that play a significant role in end-time conflict. Revelation 9 describes them this way. The shape of the locust was like horses prepared for battle. On their heads were something like crowns of gold, and their faces were like faces of men. They had hair like the hair of women, and their teeth were like the teeth of lions. They had breastplates like the breastplates of iron, and the sound of their wings was like the sound of chariots with many horses running to battle. They had tails like scorpions, and stings in their tails. Their power was to hurt men for 5 months. They had as king over them the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in Hebrew is Abaddon, and in Greek his name is Apollyon. Revelation 9, verses 7 through 11. What on earth was the Apostle John thinking about? Exactly what kind of locusts did he witness on the Isle of Patmos where he received these prophetic revelations? The traditional interpretation is that these locusts could be evil entities or demonic, physical, or spiritual beings that will rise up out of the bottomless pit or abyss to torment people and assume the characteristics of locusts. And that may very well be what happens. So again, this is a speculative article, so we'll have to find out eventually. Others speculate they may be some form of grotesque variation of natural locusts as we know them today, perhaps even some form of chimeras or other DNA manipulation that scientists are now moving ahead with. Or did the Apostle John perhaps see some advanced military aerial machinery that he lacked words to describe? Even the commentator in the video below refers to the drone swarm as looking like a swarm of locusts. These revelations were given to John about 2,000 years ago when there would have been no way for him to properly describe 21st century technological inventions that would follow many centuries later. Is it possible he was describing some type of technology in our day similar to the drone swarms? And then if you go and look at this article, they have a news video that talks about this. Now, again, a lot of this is speculation. Was this described in the Bible, drone swarm technology, or not? Who knows? I can't definitively say one way or another. It's possible. But what I can tell you is that this technology is being developed now, and it creates an inherently unstable arms race because unlike nuclear weapons, which required the procurement of rare materials and a lot of capital expenditure, they could be tracked during the Cold War. You pretty much had a good idea of the capabilities of your enemy, and you had the doctrine of mutual assured destruction, which you could rely on and think, well, we're less likely to be attacked because they know that we can respond and everybody everybody will be obliterated, so that keeps everybody in check. But we're going to see the doctrine of mutual assured destruction turned on its head. It will become obsolete, just like horseback battles became obsolete when conventional weapons were brought to the battlefield. So MAD will come to an end, and this type of technology is what will do it. Because again, like we said, imagine trying to, guard yourself, defend yourself against a swarm of bees with a shotgun. You're not going to get very far. And so conventional weapons, conventional nuclear weapons, things like that are not going to be able to defend against these types of swarms, because these swarms can seek out enemy weapons, enemy systems, and disable them before they are able to launch them. So this type of technology, artificial intelligence, is going to advance this technology. Advances in molecular manufacturing will allow these swarms to be even cheaper than they are now, smaller than they are now, more powerful, able to travel longer distances. We're going to see advances throughout technology in the coming days, months, years that are going to lead to these types of swarms that are beyond most people's imagination of what the future of warfare is. And so, but when this happens, keep in mind, when this happens, when this breakthrough occurs, because I believe the breakthrough will be, there are three primary technologies. There's quantum computing, molecular manufacturing, and artificial intelligence. And there's going to be a breakthrough probably in the molecular manufacturing realm, but it will be all of these three technologies advancing in tandem together and feeding off of each other, which is going to cause whatever leading nation creates it, or group of nations, to break out and be able to overcome any threat of nuclear annihilation, and they will see a future of a world without mutual assured destruction. So regardless of their motive, whether they're good, bad, indifferent, they will look at the future and say, this, if we allow another competitor to develop these technologies, we're going to have an inherently unstable arms race that will destroy the planet. So therefore, we need to use our advantage, our first mover advantage, to conquer the globe. And so, is this what the Bible talks about when it talks about the Antichrist controlling the earth? Revelation 6, is this part of that? If it's not, then certainly all of those prophecies can be fulfilled in a number of ways. But if this technology develops to the point where it matures, then I believe that it will be what we read about in the Bible, because whoever develops it will have to use it to conquer the globe. And the Bible doesn't say anything about anyone else conquering the globe before the Antichrist. So we would have to believe that this technology would play a pivotal role if it's allowed to mature to that point. And we're on the brink of it coming into being. So I believe that this is very, again, it's speculation, but I think it's very thought through and educated speculation on the part of Prophecy Newswatch to put this out there and talk about this type of thing, because the future of warfare is changing, and people often fight the last war. They look in the past and they think that they project forward and think the future will be much as it was in the past. And history tells us that that's not true. So we live in a world where we're seeing all of the signs Jesus and the prophets said to look for coming together. Jesus said, when you see those signs converge, you know that the end is near. I'm right at the door. And then we see these technologies developing, which will create the conditions that the Bible says will exist at the time the Antichrist comes to power. Conditions that would allow him to conquer the earth, to control and govern the earth. Think of the technologies we see today in the Mark of the Beast technology, the ability to control all buying and selling on the planet, the ability to shut off all war. It says, who can make war against the beast in the book of Revelation? So we know that the Antichrist will have a control over a military capability that's second to none. No one else, no other human will be able to come against it. It's only Jesus Christ at the glorious appearing that's able to come against the Antichrist and his forces. So these are very interesting developments. Again, we'll keep an eye on them. Keep checking out these videos. Anything else crops up, we'll be talking about it. What do you think? Leave your comments below. Make sure to like and share this. And God willing, talk to you tomorrow. Bye. If you want to learn more about the end times and Bible prophecy, make sure to sign up for my free monthly newsletter and get your copy of my free ebook, 7 Signs of the End Times. Just follow the link in the description to get your free book. Also, make sure to check out all of my books. Just look up Britt on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Apple iBooks, Google Books, Kobo, or anywhere books are sold. Thanks for watching today, and until next time, keep your eyes fixed on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith.